Good evening, everyone. This is Reading for Charity again. Haven't done one of these for a while, mostly because work has been completely mental. Just my cat jumping off my desk. Haven't done one of these for a while. Work has been completely and utterly mental, so we have a whole stack of reviews kind of lined up, ready to go. Today's one is Shadow Games by Glenn Cook, continuing the fantasy series I was reading up until now. This is probably going to be a relatively quick one because it's a relatively short book and there's not a huge amount to say. So the series up until now, so this is the first part of the continuing story that he started in the first trilogy. So the first trilogy finished with the White Rose and the Lady basically being declawed, as you like, and everyone going their separate ways. And it was kind of like really kind of a ... what happens next. And he has the idea he's going to travel south and return to, was it Cartosum, I think it is? It's only mentioned a couple of times. Back down south to where the Black Company was originally from. And it's, as reasons go, it's fairly excuse-esque. It's basically MacGuffin. Here is just something that we're going to do for no reason other than we're going to do it. And he does kind of even say that. He doesn't know why he's doing any of these things, he's just doing them. So the emphasis for the book is rather weak. And all the characters in the book, I praised the previous books for its characterization and caring about the characters and really enjoying the characters he created. And in Shadow Games, he's kind of stalled with that. The characters he has, he's continued with. I mean, he killed off a serious chunk of them in the first three books. So, and the ones that are left are the ones that we kind of like. And Croker, who is really the main characters of these books, has become the main character of the books. He was the one writing the annals before, so he was, everything was told from his perspective, but, everyone in the book was effectively their own set of main characters. Everyone had their own screen time. In Shadow Games, it's Croker and friends by this point. It's much less the ensemble it was before. And I think the book loses a little bit for that. I quite like the fact that everyone had a bit of thing going for them. I mean, we had the Lady, we had Croker, we had One Eye, we had Goblin, we had the Captain, we had Raven, we had... everyone had a bit of screen time and their own motivations, which I think is the most important bit of making believable characters, is that everyone has their own motivations. In Shadow Games, nobody seems to have a motivation at all. Croker doesn't know why he's leading the Black Company south, he just feels like it's something he should do. The folks underneath him are doing things because he told them to. One Eye and Goblin still have their squabbles, but it's less charming this time round, and the reasons for doing what they're doing is again less. There doesn't seem to be much reason for them to do it. If the only thing he states in the book, the only thing holding them together is basically the fact they have nowhere else to go, and it's such a rubbish reason for the book to exist, or to begin on that state. So it's. Going through the book, you're kind of wondering why anyone's doing any of these things other than an obstacle has been placed before them and therefore they must cross it because it's in front of them. And it feels like, a little bit by the numbers book, which is disappointing. So also I'm going to use the spoiler fingers. So I'm going to put these up again in a second, and when I put these up, and you don't want to know what happens, mute, and when I do this again, you can unmute. So. Okay, by the end of the book, you understand that the big bad guys in the Shadow Games are just the Taken from before. It's exactly the same set of bad guys from the previous set of books that everyone thought had been defeated and were gone. There's no new, fresh set of bad guys, and that was absolutely gutting when I found out. It's robbed the book of so much. It's just now a rehash of things that went before. And it's so annoying that the potential for the Shadow Masters to actually be new bad guys that you could face, and it would be interesting. And Glenn Cook has backtracked into just going, well, people quite like the Taken, so haha, the Taken are back, surprise! And it's like, I'm not surprised, and also I don't care, because they're an old enemy, and now what's the point to anything this? And how did they know they were coming? And there's so many other issues. And then if they knew they were coming that long ago, why didn't they? And it's no, they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have made it the Taken. They should have just kept the Shadow Masters as the new enemy. Okay, spoilers over. So the Shadow Masters in the book kind of know that the Black Company are coming south and kind of set up everything to try and stop them. And, you know, there's no point where they kind of go, well, wait a minute, why are we doing this? These people are putting things in a way. They seem to know so much more about us. They know what we're going to do. They know where we're going to go. Why are we actually following this path? You know, and if it had been the captain or even the previous set of books, they would have gone, no, we're not following the path that's been out of us. We're going to find a third way. You know, find some other way of doing it. But no, in this book, they just kind of blindly blunder on, brute forcing their way through every problem. It's disappointing. It's not as good as the first three novels. Clearly not as good as the first three novels. And I was disappointed with that. Positives to it, I don't know. The new characters aren't as engaging. There is an awful lot of Croker in particular being led around by the nose. The characterization isn't as good as it was before. The story isn't as good as it was before. The things that I really enjoyed about the previous books, like a lot of the battles happening off screen, if you liked. So you would pick it up in the aftermath of a battle, and then they would talk about what went on. I thought that was a better way of doing it. It was much more analyst. It was much more annals-esque than what we have here, which is much more description of the battles as they're taking place. And I'm not so keen on that. It feels much more generic fantasy to me. It's lost a lot of the flavour that made the first trilogy so enjoyable to me. And that's not to say it's a bad book. It's not. It's just as good as it was. It's enjoyable to read. The characters are still the same characters. And it's a nice little book, but I do have to admit that when the twist was unveiled, I was disappointed, and it just kind of topped off what was just a mildly disappointing book in general. So should you read this book? If you're planning on reading the rest of the series, then yes, you should. At the moment, I'm withdrawing judgment on whether this should be a continued series, because the first three books were excellent. I highly recommend the first trilogy. They were really, really good. If the rest of these books continues on in this vein, I'll probably switch back and say maybe not. Maybe you should just have left out the first three books. But we'll see. This could pick it back up again. So we'll see what happens with it. The series has been decent so far, and I do like the characters. But should you read this book? We will see. I'll tell you yes or no when I've read more of them, whether this is worth picking back up, because the first trilogy was excellent. And I left it off with a bit of a meta story, but you could still leave it off there. So yes, Shadow Games, Glenn Cook. Continuing the Black Company series, decent enough book, disappointing in the context of the other ones. Very, very much so. So yes, that's that one down. So next up, we're going to be doing 3 books, one after the other. So I took a bit of a break from the Black Company series. So I've not read the 5th book in the series because I just needed a break from it. I was disappointed in the ending of Shadow Games, so I didn't go any further with that. Instead, we're going to go for what I feel was quite inspired by the Black Company, which is the Stephen Erickson series. The Maslan Books of the Fallen. Which are big, chunky, hefty tomes. Take a look at the difference in size. So there we go. There's the Black Company books, which I was praising for their brevity, and here's the Stephen Erickson books, which is much more the weighty tomes. So we'll see. We'll discuss these books next. These are the next set of books, which I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to review Deadhouse Gates tomorrow. Which one's the next? It's the Memories of Ice, isn't it? It's the second one. So that one's going to be on Tuesday, and Gardens of the Moon, no, that's the second one, isn't it? Is going to be on Wednesday. Tuesday, whichever one is. So they're going to be the next 3. I've actually got 2 more books actually done as well, so we've got 6 reviews lined up in the end. So we've got the Borage book, we've got Labyrinths as well. I read that was relatively straightforward, that was pretty quick. And I just finished The Secret History today, so that one's going to be, what was that, Thursday, Friday? I think we've got 6 reviews lined up, so Yeah, so I'll review every night this week probably. That's the plan. That's the plan on what I'm getting done. So yes, picking things back up. We'll be way over 50 books by the end of this week, which is good. Continuing on the reading, trying to get this all sorted, trying to get this all done. So yeah, I kind of put on Facebook that I'd had one good, one terrible, no, one excellent, no, one disappointing, one good, one terrible, 3 good. Now make that 1 excellent, 1 disappointing. This was the disappointing one. 1 terrible and 3 good. So you can work out which ones are which by the end of this. But yes, so until tomorrow, this has been Reading for Charity. We're reading the Shadow Games for the Archie Foundation, which is a fantastic charity, helps sick kids in the northeast of Scotland. All this is being done for charity. There's just all the donations are going straight to Archie. They sent me a lovely letter thanking me for all the donations and all the hard work that I put into this, which was lovely. Which I should have up somewhere. Did I put it up? Yes, I did. There we go. There we go. A lovely little thank you, Dr. Gregor Cooney. Isn't that lovely? Yes. Set the back up. So this is a fantastic charity. We've raised lots of money. Hopefully we can raise some more before the end of all this. But yeah, tomorrow, next review. And that will be, where did I say it was? Deadhouse Gates. Yes, of course, Mazlan. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. This has been Reading for Charity. Good evening.